Okay everyone, welcome again to the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with the FIA Manufacturers Championship. It's round number 6 in the exhibition season, the first season of the exhibition rounds that we'll be doing at the moment. This is the Le Mans round, driving the Group 4 cars. Managed to get pole position there, you can see on a 4 minutes 19 flat. Wasn't the perfect lap, this lobby wasn't the most competitive. I think it was around just under 2,000 points, like 1,984 points or something like that for first place, so not the most competitive, but managed to get pole in not particularly the best car for this track. As you can see, mainly the faster cars like Lamborghini, Corvette, SLS, mainly top end cars, even the TT Cup there, really cars that are a little bit faster at the front. Then first Porsche after myself in P7, over 3.8 seconds slower than myself, so not a bad lap. I think there was another second and a half potential, but obviously you only get one lap in these qualifying sessions, so I like to be fairly safe while pushing as well to make sure you don't pick up the penalties. They did extend this session to 12 minutes, which was a bit pointless because, you know, you're still only going to get one flying lap in, so it was a bit of a weird thing that they done there. I don't know why they didn't extend it to 15 if they were going to extend it at all, but they only did the enough time just to do one lap either way. I mean, what it meant was that you could take it a little bit easier on your outlap, which I tended to do. I didn't worry about burning fuel, I just took it really easy all the way on the outlap, because I found that when I started trying to burn fuel now, I think they must have updated it, the front tyre started to burn out really fast, so I didn't do that. I just crawled around the outlap and then just did a fairly safe lap, 4 minutes 19 flat, got myself in pole position, and the best place to start obviously at Le Mans is pole position. Hopefully no one will take me out, obviously a rolling start, so hopefully it should all be good at turn 1, and you know, if it was a standing start it could be a little bit tricky, but rolling start it should all be okay. You can see a few fairly okay drivers in the lobby, but it wasn't really competitive. I did the 9 PM Nations race because I knew I had a good chance of getting high points, so I went for the more strong lobby in that one, because I obviously didn't get home until I think it was like 8:30 or something like that, around then anyway, so we had a bit of time to warm up for the Nations, and then straight after the Nations race jumped straight onto Le Mans, and no real warm up, did about 2-3 laps in the time trial and went straight into the race. As you can see, going straight through to the TV replay camera for the start of the race, you can see straight away I was trying to just move around to loosen that slipstream a bit so P2 wouldn't be able to get a stronger slipstream all the way into turn 1, and got away fairly okay. You can see he's decided not to throw one up the inside, fairly safe driving by P2 there, so it was good to see he wasn't just going to risk anything going through the first corners. Just the first aim of the first section really was to not pick up any penalties. You know, the worst thing you can do at Le Mans is get a penalty right from the start, because it really puts you on the back foot. So trying to drive fairly smooth all the way through this section that really does suit the Cayman more than some of the other cars. The SLS managing to stay fairly close. Obviously the tyres at this stage and all the cars are, you know, they're pretty much perfect, so I was on the hard tyres. I did qualify on the medium tyres, switched to the hard tyres for the race, obviously in the menu settings, and putting under pressure now straight away from the SLS. You can see not much I can do to defend against the SLS. A much faster car down the straight than the Cayman, especially when in the slipstream, and behind that is a Mustang, which again is faster than both myself and the SLS. So the SLS had a little bit more grunt than the Cayman, and then that Mustang behind was just a lot faster than both of our cars. But you can see, looking back at myself, I decided just to tuck back into the slipstream of P1 in that SLS. There's no point in me trying to fight him through that corner and lose time. I just wanted to try and stay with the slipstream really on the straights, because that is where my car is weak. So the aim really for the first 2 laps, because I need to wait for the strength of my car to come into play really, was just to stay within the battle, picking up the slipstream, stay in the battle, give my car a bit more speed down the straight. As you can see, picking up the slipstream, you can see I have a little look on that inside, but I decide it's not really worth going for that. I decided to tuck back into the slipstream and stay behind, because it was too risky to throw up the inside there. But the Mustang behind has a little look, and I thought he was going to go in. I had to compromise my entry for that corner. I thought he was just going to throw one up the inside, so I tried to give him a bit of space if he did, and that meant I had to pretty much back out the corner a bit and losing the slipstream to P1. So it was a little bit frustrating that. Obviously I felt it wasn't really on that move for the Mustang. I think he did back out of it, but it was kind of one of them moves where you just didn't know whether he was going to go for it or not, so I kind of had to just give him a bit of space in cases. We're going to go through to the replay camera. You can see, having a little look on the inside there of the Mustang in front of me, but going into the braking zone, a tiny little tap to the Mustang, no real harm done, didn't affect either of us. I think it was just where he got on the brakes a little bit fraction earlier, where the Cayman has a little bit stronger braking ability than that Mustang in front. So still in the slipstream of the two cars in front of myself, and just holding on in there. You can see the difference now behind ourselves. There's a bit of a gap developed between P4 in that Lamborghini, so managing to build a solid gap. So it looks like a battle between P1, 2 and 3 really for the win already in this race. As you see, once a gap develops at Le Mans, you tend to see that they just drop off because you end up just slipstreaming each other and pulling away. But going through now into the handling section, I like to call it, in a minute. Obviously we've got this right hand corner, and this is where my car was a lot stronger than the two cars in front. Obviously this is where I knew I could really put them under pressure. Lovely camera angle that there. You see all three cars shooting past the camera and really putting each other under pressure. You can see the Mustang picking up that SLS slipstream. I'm picking up the Mustang slipstream. So this is all beneficial for me at this stage, because I'm waiting for my tyres to, obviously, for their tyres to go. They're big, heavy cars, they're front engine cars. Their tyres are going to go. This is a no-stop race. 4 laps with, I think it was times 16 tyre wear. So I knew that their tyres were going to start feeling very old by lap 2 or so, 2 to 3. Whereas the Cayman tends to look after its tyres that little bit better. You know, we witnessed that in Dragon Trail when I managed to no-stop on the super soft tyres compared to no one else even doing it on the hard tyres, I think it was. So it does make a difference having a car that's a little bit better on tyre wear. As now sticking to Cobra at the rear there, just staying with him through here. You know, I've got the faster car through this section, but I can't really do much with it. So I'm trying to look after my tyres, not put the front tyres under too much load, trying to be fairly smooth through these sections and not risking getting a penalty. You can see I'm trying to stay quite away from the curbs. I don't want to pick up any sort of penalty that is going to affect my race. You know, I don't mind picking up a slight penalty, but you know, if you pick up a 2-second penalty, it means I'd pretty much lose the slipstream if I had to try and get rid of it. But you can see P1 obviously got that slipstream, and look at the difference in straight line speed. Because I didn't have the slipstream, they nearly broke the toe there. But then going through the handling section, I was fairly confident I could get close again. Obviously through here, this is where the car suits this section more so than the cars in front. It looked like P2 should have got a penalty there, and he ran outside the track limits. I think if that was my car, I would have got it. It's really weird. I don't know if because it's a wider car, they compensate slightly with the Mustang, but it was really wide through that corner. And again, we're going to go through this really tricky right hand corner where you want to carry speed, but you've got to be careful not to run wide. And both the leader and the Mustang run really far wide, and I expected them both to get a penalty there. They ran exactly the same width there. You can see P1 gets a penalty, but that Mustang does not get a penalty. And to me, there was pretty much identical lines through that corner that they took, and the Ford just didn't get the penalty. So really strange that he didn't pick up a penalty for that incident. He's going to have a little look on the inside now, going into the first chicane. This is going to be really tricky. I decided just to stay in the slipstream, and then I saw him brake to try and get rid of a penalty. Saw an opportunity to get on the inside and get myself back up to P2. A nice clean move there, made that work, and actually stayed with P1 for the slipstream. So that's really benefited myself, as the Mercedes obviously trying to get rid of some of his slipstream. I think he wanted to slot back in behind P1, but I saw the opportunity, tucked on the inside and made that move count. So now back up to P2. We're coming to, you know, midway in the second lap now. It's really close battle in this. This is pretty much anyone's race at this stage. But like I say, it was going to be a case of the tyres. Will they play an effect in this race? Will they come to start affecting P1 and the Mercedes behind me? So Mercedes again trying to get rid of some of his slipstream. You can see in the distance there, losing some of his slipstream. Risky game to play, obviously, to lose a slipstream. You know, trying to lose your penalties that you've got, and then if you risk doing that, you risk losing the slipstream, which is so important at this track because it's so hard to get back. If you've got, like, even though my car's slow, I've got the slipstream of P1 in the Ford Mustang, which is one of the fastest cars. As I have a little look on the right hand side there, he goes defensive, then I go to left, he goes defensive again, then I go to the right, and he kind of a triple defense there, which was a little bit, I think it was a little bit too far. Maybe once he'd done that one move to the right hand side when I looked up the inside and the right, I think he should have stayed to that right hand side and let me go down the left really. But then he tried to cover that move off as well, which is a little bit naughty. You tend to, you know, in defense, you normally only allow one move in defense. If it was breaking a slipstream, I wouldn't have minded so much, but it was more defensive that he did the free move. So a little bit naughty, but no harm done again, and still in P2 and looking to try and make a move past this Mustang, seeing if I could get this move done before the handling section so I can try and pull away, because I knew if I could get in the lead before the handling section, that's when I can really go for it and see if I can, you know, use up some of my tyre life and build a gap up, because I felt confident that they wouldn't be able to follow me in that section and I might be able to break the toe. But you see, trying to go around the outside there, that's not going to work. But I just tried it anyway. Luckily stayed in the slipstream and kept P2. So the Mercedes behind me decides to tuck back in behind me, and he's going to give me a little boost by just nudging my car there. A bit of bump drafting just to try and help myself get closer to that P1, and also it's going to help him because he knows that he's probably best leaving my car in front to be able to go through the handling section. As you see, riding on board with him, I took seriously speed, a bit too much speed into that corner, nearly lost the rear, managed to hold it, and obviously now just trying to work my way closer to that Mustang. As you can see, sensible driving by the Mercedes to let myself go through this section first. It came in obviously a better car through this section than the Mercedes. Obviously the Mercedes is not a terrible car, but not really up to the speed of the Cayman through there. So the Mustang runs really wide out of that corner. I managed to keep it nicely on track. I'm really close to the slipstream with that Mustang now, trying to see if I can make a move. He's going to go defensive into this corner. I try and have a little look on the outside, can't do that. He then brakes too late into this corner, has to run nearly wide there, and he compromises his entry into this corner. Had a little look on the inside, managed to get my car side by side. He kind of shuts the door on it, but it's all fair. We managed to come through that corner. He's still in the lead. The Mercedes takes advantage of all that action and goes for the lead, as I then have to tuck in behind the Mercedes and battling everywhere. You can see this is pretty much giving the other cars behind a chance to close up, but this is great racing. All three cars close together, looking for the lead in this race. As I had a little look up the inside of Mercedes, realised I couldn't make that move, backed out of it and just decided to tuck in behind the Mercedes again as we work our way onto the long straights again. You can see the action really getting close now. You can see this is the phase where the tyre wear should start helping myself out over the other cars, managing to get back right up into the slipstream there through the handling section, and now I've just got to concentrate on getting a nice clean exit onto the back straight to give myself the best slipstream all the way down into the chicane. You can see getting really close now. This is great racing. Just look at this on lap 3, everyone fighting for the lead, triple slipstreaming going on there, all the way now down into the chicane. Who's going to go for a move? Will the Mercedes go for a move on the inside? I have a little look on the inside of Mercedes, but the slipstream, I just can't. Once I'm out the slipstream, I don't have the speed to make a move. You can see the Cayman just hasn't got the legs, so I have to tuck back in and go down the left hand side, and just decided to back off a little bit here. There's no point me making a risky move as the Mercedes tries one on the inside, but he's braked too late. Will he be able to keep it on track? He's tried to brake really hard there. He's just about kept it on track. I tried to go right to avoid any cars, saw a nice gap in between both cars and put myself into P1. Some great action. I actually picked up a penalty there where I was trying to avoid the chaos that was going on, but no harm done, only half a second penalty and into the lead of this race. So this is where I wanted to be. I'm going to have to go defensive against the Mustang, but the Mustang decides to get rid of some of his penalty, obviously thinking he can then tuck behind the Mercedes and he'll be able to catch me up in the straight. But the tyre wear is going to start playing a factor now, so you can see I'm going to start driving really aggressive now and use up my tyre life. I know I've got better tyres than the other two cars, obviously the Cayman looks after them tyres much better, so really trying to push now all the way through this section because I didn't want to lose the lead going into the handling section. Will they be able to get close enough to make a move before the handling section? That was the key. I had to try and stop it happening, pushing really hard all the way now for this lap. Going into the braking zone in a minute now. You can see this, the SLS really starting to pick up that slipstream, but again he decides to try and get rid of some of his penalty, which might have really affected him. I don't know if I would have done that at that position, but you know, he's just trying to get rid of it while he's in the slipstream. He thinks that he can then get back close to myself, which is probably correct because the Mercedes just that much faster than the Cayman. Again on the straight now, tried to push a little bit too hard through that corner, unfortunately lost a bit of time. You can see the Mercedes getting very close now. He's getting closer and closer to the rear of my Cayman. I'm going all the way to the right hand side because I want to defend this. I don't want to let that Mercedes through before the handling section, but again the Mercedes, luckily for myself, decides to get rid of some of his penalty, and this is really helping me out because now I've got clear track going into the handling section, so I'm really going to push through these corners now. Down into second gear, aggressive driving on the curb, hook them corners up really nice, and look at the gap. Managed to increase that gap straight away through really driving aggressive there. Now trying to hook this corner up on the pound nice and early, using all the track width, maybe a little bit too much. Cars screaming about a little bit there where it's trying to lose traction. Obviously the tyre wear, this time 16 tyre wear starting to kick in now as we're working our way into the really fast flowing section now, and just about managing to stay ahead of that Mercedes. You can see the slipstream was 7 tenths ahead, but it's now down to 4 tenths. It's going to go under 4 tenths with that massive slipstream he's getting, but now hopefully I can build that lead up through these really fast corners. This is where the Cayman's going to be a stronger car, going through this left-hander and then the really tricky right to left-hand corner. Will I be able to break the slipstream? before the start finishing line, driving really aggressively, trying my hardest to get myself a cushion that he hasn't got the slipstream, and that will really help me out on the final lap. You can see gap building and building. It's nearly up to 8 tenths, 9 tenths. It's nearly up to a 4 second. Will I be able to break that slipstream? And it looks like I've done it. It's at 1 second, so now I've got to drive aggressive all the way now before the long straights on lap 4, because I need to make sure I've got over a 1.5 second gap so that they don't start picking up that slipstream again. Driving really aggressive through there on the power nice and early. Mercedes behind is going to start catching up down this straight now, as obviously, you know, this is where the Mercedes is stronger, so it's going to start gaining as we go into turn 1. But will he be able to get close enough to pick up that slipstream again? It's getting very close. It's down to 1.1 seconds. But in the braking zone, braking fairly late and just trying to hook this corner up. I didn't want to risk any penalties, obviously. Get nice and clean through there on the power nice and early into 3rd gear and just about staying out of that slipstream reach. Now again, it's going to be a case of just avoiding him picking up the slipstream before we get onto the back straight. Really aggressive through these corners, trying to keep it smooth but fast. You can see that this car is just so much stronger through there than the other cars, and I've built that gap up to 1.5 seconds. So this is really helping me out now. You know, the tyres in better condition, running a little bit wide there. I was a little bit worried I might pick up a penalty, but luckily didn't run wide enough and go all the way down the straight with a 2 second lead. And this is perfect on the final lap because my tyres are now in better condition. I've got the gap to cover myself for the straights. I don't think they're going to be able to get close enough, even with the extra power they have, you know, through the straights, because we've got the chicanes in between there where the Cayman should be a little bit stronger. And hopefully now I can just build this lead up all the way to the finishing line. You can see the rear starting to go really loose on the braking. You can see I have my brake balance set to -4. I think the dust, someone said about the dust was affecting this track, which possibly was correct. It was really affecting the rear on the braking. It really did want to move about a lot, but I kind of like that. It enabled you to trail brake and get the rear out into the corners, but I did compensate it a bit with -4 on the brake balance. It kind of just helped stabilize the car a bit, and now that gap's still increasing. So this race is looking like the perfect race. Pretty much, you know, managed to hold on to them until the slipstream, obviously until their tyres started to fade off. And now that I've got into the lead, I can just drive really aggressive and try and build on this lead. And then once we get through to the handling section, there's not really much chance they'll have to get closer to myself. So still putting up personal best sectors in the race. So this shows you how much time I was losing, obviously, in the battle when I had the fresher tyres. Obviously, I knew I could have done, you know, 4-minute 19s, 4-minute 20s fairly comfortably. I did it in qualifying, the low 4-minute 19, and obviously the lap wasn't perfect, but that was on the softer compound tyre. But I felt confident I could get down to maybe a 4-minute 20, 4-minute 20, you know, late 20s, early 21s if I was in clean air. But now you can see driving onto the back straight, and the gap still building, still going through that sector there with a personal best of the race. So far everything going perfect, you know, pretty much again in this race. Again, another pole position in this race. I think that's about 6 or 7 pole positions in a row now in FIA races. It is really starting to hook these the Porsche up in qualifying. I feel a little bit more confident with this car than I obviously did when I first got in it, and starting to really understand how to get the most out of it, and obviously changing the brake bias around every now and then as well. You can see now going into the handling section, just trying to keep it nice and smooth. Braked a little bit late there, but still on the power reasonably well on the exit, and the gap still getting bigger. It's nearly up to 3 seconds now. So a confident end to the race, managing to, obviously once I had the chance to break that slipstream, I went for it, and it really did pay off. I drove really aggressive, managed to get myself well and truly in the lead now. So only half a second penalty to get rid of. I think they may have had a little bit more penalty to get rid of than myself at the finishing line. As you can see, the gap's still building up. Maybe they're trying to get rid of it on the straights. It looks like P2's on his own there. It looks like the Mustang has dropped quite a bit weight off, maybe with penalties, and is now down into P4. So maybe he's struggling with them tyres on that Mustang. I'm not too sure. But the Porsche, still reasonably nice to drive. It is suffering a bit with the tyre wear, but I'm still able to drive fairly aggressively, as you can see, going through the really fast corners, and just trying to make sure I don't pick up any penalties, just keeping it nice and smooth, clipping the apex of the corner, run a little bit wide there, but you can get away with that there. It won't give you a penalty, and then all the way to the finishing line, hopefully without any further incidents. You can see the gap up to 4 seconds now. So really is, you can see the gap building. I was pretty confident this would happen if I could get myself a gap that they wouldn't be able to pick up my slipstream on, because obviously Le Mans, it was hard for myself to really achieve that with the Cayman not having the straight line speed, but I managed to do it, and we go over the line with a nice comfortable win. and a great result. Another win in the FIA Series. So that was 2 wins on the day. I won at Brands Hatch and at Le Mans. Obviously this split wasn't the hardest, I do understand that, but still I couldn't do more than what I did here. I managed to get the win and come away with just under 2,000 points. So a really good round and some really good racing I think in there, with the SLS and the Mustang. Some enjoyable racing to watch and some enjoyable racing to be involved with. So thoroughly happy with that, and now we've just got to concentrate on the new season that is going to be taking place. First round is today, obviously at, I think it's at Fuji Speedway, in the Group 3 cars, and we have the FIA Nations in the Group 4 cars at that really short track, which should be, I'm not too sure how that's going to go. I'm more confident with the Fuji track. Hopefully I can pick up some better points, and hopefully I can do an earlier race slot that's a bit more competitive in the manufacturer series and try and get myself some good solid points. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. Hope you enjoyed the race. Some really fun action there. You can see as we take the win and we pick up, I think it was just under 2,000 points. Let's have a little look as our car goes onto the podium, and we pick up, I think it was 1,980 something points. Let's see as we get them points, and it's building up. So 1,961 I think it was there. So not too bad, not great, but it was enough to put me 13th overall in the European region and P2 in the Porsche. Obviously had some unlucky rounds I think with this season, so I think once it all starts clicking together, maybe I can challenge. I think I'll be able to challenge Org for the win. It'll be close. I think he's got a bit more speed at certain tracks, but it's all about what tracks you know are used in the season. So let's see how it goes. And obviously with luck as well, sometimes you can have a bit of better luck than someone else. So hopefully I can challenge for the win in the title in the championship this season and push all the way to the end. Anyway, thanks again for watching. We'll be back with more FIA action over the next few days with the races that are on today, and obviously some more live streaming towards the end of the week. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and click that notification button so you don't miss any future videos. Thanks again for watching, everyone.